Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Amanda Shields, an occupational therapist based in Adelaide. I work primarily in persistent pain, but I'm also passionate about innovation, technology, and exploring new ways we can help people live more meaningful lives. One of the reasons I started this podcast is because I love talking to people who see a problem, think differently, and have the courage to create something better. Whether that's through technology, new models of care, or simply challenging the way we've always done things. I think these conversations can inspire us all to reflect on how we support the people that we work with. And today I'm really excited to be joined by Laura Simmons. Laura is a paediatric occupational therapist, entrepreneur, and the founder and CEO of Theratrak, which is an online platform designed to help allied health professionals deliver home therapy programs more effectively, improve client engagement, and reduce the administration burden that so many clinicians experience. And like many great innovations, Theratrak started with Laura identifying there was a gap in practice and deciding to do something about it. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about that journey, what has inspired her, what she's learned along the way, and what she sees as the future of digital health and therapy is heading in. So, Laura, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'd love to start by hearing your story behind Theratrak. What was happening in your clinical work that made you think there's got to be a better way?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Amanda. It's such an honor and such a joy to be a part of this project of yours. Um, yes, 2018 was technically the official start date of Theratrak. And I remember talking to an advisor a few years after that, and she said, "No, you've been whinging about this for years." So probably since like 2016 or 2014. And I always got frustrated. I worked in private pediatric practice where we would see clients, they'd come into the clinic, you'd see them for 45 minutes or an hour a week or a fortnight, and then they'd go home and they'd come back and you go, "How'd things go this week?" And they go, "Oh, it was really tough. We worked on these things." And there'd be all this information. You go, "Did you practice all the things that I, recommended?" I gave you all this juicy information at the end. And I'm definitely an oversharer when it comes to information. I know that some of my clients' parents have told me that before. And no, nothing had happened. Oh gosh, okay, forgot again. Okay, back and forth, back and forth. And it seemed to be this reoccurring thing. And then, lots of things sort of were probably catalysts in different ways for Theratrak. Another one of them being that I went and did some feeding therapy. I thought I was going to go down a path of becoming like a specialized feeding therapist. And I went and did the course and I came back and went, "Oh my God, like normal pediatric therapy homework is intense. And then feeding therapy homework is like the whole next level." And I just no, this isn't going to happen. And so, like, one of those things I think that I guess my brain is really good at, I just start talking to people about my problem and see if they can help me solve it or try and figure it out. I'm like, okay, surely there is a way, surely there is a thing that will help me get this feeding therapy homework home. So that's kind of probably the real initial part of it. But whilst I was working with these feeding therapy clients, I was also working with other clients in the pediatric space and similar things of, both parents working and the nanny bringing the child to the therapy session. And then how does that information go home and who translates it or the grammar? Like there was just so many things and everything came back to how do I get what I've done in my therapy session home in an easy way that's not paper because that just disappears for some reason. I don't know where it goes. Or it's an email that I don't have time to write because I'm back to back with sessions all day. And the last thing I want to be doing at 5 o'clock is writing home programs. I want to go home and eat my dinner and see my dog. And so it's like, how do you do this? How do you find something like this? And I sort of went, surely someone's invented this. This doesn't seem like a rocket science invention of get thing from therapy session home. And all I could find at the time was exercise prescription apps. So I could find physio apps where people are going, here's an exercise program for you to follow. Here's a personal training program for you to follow it. That's great, but I don't do exercise programs. I'm trying to build a strategy with a parent. I'm trying to build a habit or a routine. Anyway, so tried to come up with a whole bunch of different ideas and talk to a bunch of people. At one point, I was going to make a Facebook group that was going to just be like a parent resource page. And I remember someone saying to me at one point, "Facebook group's great, but like, how's that going to sustain you as a human being? That's not going to pay you any money unless you're giving away more of your time for free."
Yep.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah. And
And
then
probably,
taking
and
away from the time, yeah, to enjoy life or to actually be doing more meaningful stuff with clients.
exactly. And I think that, I mean, like that's the nature of the beast. We do this job because we care about people, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's care bubbles. And so anyway, so the kind of coffee conversations, I went and spoke to all sorts of different people, and they would refer me on to different people. And it was about 6 or 7 coffee conversations later that I'd gone down these rabbit holes, and I ended up speaking to someone from a startup program. And
Mhm.
again, I'd never heard of a tech startup program before this. So my day was filled with playing with putty and climbing up rock climbing walls and hanging up swings and going to school visits. And then the next thing you know, I'm sitting in an office in York Street with this lady whose job title was the COO, and she was very corporate, and I was like, this is just not my world. Um, but I was talking backwards, and luckily enough, she was a mum, so she kind of understood the whole idea of homework and the thing. And she went, "I think you're really right for our startup program." And what is a startup program? No idea what that is. And she said it's a startup program that helps women who have deep industry knowledge that have no technical background, but think they want to build a technical solution for the problem that they want to solve that's going to have big social impact. That pretty much sounds like what I want to do.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought that the problem that I was solving was just for pediatric OTs. So I was just sort of honed in and focused in this little bubble of trying to build a product that was for them. And so I entered into this competition. They had, I think, 500 applicants, and they whittled it down from 500. And then they did this boot camp. And I remember like getting in to the boot camp on like 3 o'clock on like one afternoon, and it was like a Thursday afternoon or something. And then the Monday was when the boot camp started. So I had to like tell my boss where I was working full time that I needed to swap. And she was like, "What are you doing?" "I'm going off to do crazy things. Sorry." Um, and got into this boot camp and had to pitch in front of, like, I don't know if anyone on the podcast has listened to Shark Tank or seen Shark Tank, but it was standing in front of a boardroom of like 15 giant executives from all these different big corporate businesses and going, "I want to build an app that will help 1 million kids do their home therapy programs and exercises," and sort of, it probably was more than that, but I was very nervous human at that time,
Yeah, I can imagine.
and terrified, absolutely terrified. Absolutely. I remember shaking on my way in there, and
Yeah.
then coming out and going, "Okay, I hope they like it." And because they whittled it down to 20, and then they whittled it from that down to 7. There was only 7 businesses that went through. And yeah, and then we did this 6-month program that basically took out
Oh,
all of our napkin ideas, and they were all different. So mine was in therapy. There was another lady who'd built a device for helping kids learn how to talk. And then there was another lady who was doing some stuff in wine agriculture, one in workplace safety, one in like female safety. And it was a really diverse group of women. We're still all really good friends.
yeah. What an amazing experience.
And it was just one of those things. I wish the program still existed, because I could imagine
Yeah.
so many women that I've met that would thrive off of that program. Um, but yeah, that was kind of the catalyst that got it started. So I sort of sometimes say I accidentally started a tech startup program or a tech startup company. Um, but it was one of those like,
Not
here's an
really. You worked
application.
very hard, I guess. You're just maybe fortunate that you came across that
I
at the
think
right
so.
time and it gave you
Yeah.
that avenue to develop your skills and have the
Yeah.
support.
And
Yeah.
one of those like yes and moments of,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to put this application in, and I'm going to go have this coffee with someone, because who knows what the conversation will end up like. So yeah.
That's the exciting thing when you just put yourself out and have conversations with people, particularly people who aren't even in your normal sphere.
Yeah.
You just learn so many. And I think that's why, I guess, why I started this podcast as well. But I just love having conversations with people just doing really interesting things because it just inspires you and I think helps to see, how to step out of your comfort zone and try things and like what's helped different people on that journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Oh,
know. Yeah, because I mean it's a big like going from being, pediatric OT to actually developing an app and all this technology. Like that's a big step for an OT. That would take a lot of courage to do that.
craziness, one of the two, just a what if. Well, I don't know. It was one of those things of, I think my gut always told me that it made sense. And everyone that I spoke to I had so many people say to me, this doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like you'd think,
And yeah.
yeah,
And so
I
it was
mean, as
kind of
a
like oh,
yeah, a non-pediatric OT, like I can see the advantage of like it's not just for that, but I think it's a challenge. I have the same, and I'm probably going to look at signing up with you as well. But you know, for my clients that I see of chronic pain, it's more important what they do between sessions, not with me, and having a way to have that in more be able to be tailored and tracked and that they can actually put things in there and we can communicate between sessions and things like that rather than it become this like I only see them at therapy sessions because you're not going to get the same gain from that. So I can see
yeah,
that being really, really valuable for like a lot of different areas because yeah, therapy isn't what happens in session, it's what people are doing themselves. And it's like, how do we best support them and equip them with the skills and the resources they need to be their best selves, really, isn't it? So I think, you know, you saw a gap and you've been filling it, which is
yeah,
amazing. Well done. What a journey. Still
yeah,
going, and you're still on this journey, I guess. So
yeah.
where do you kind of see it going, like what you're doing? Have you got sort of, yeah, where you're going to take it or that you can share with us?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think, yeah, me 7 years ago to now is a very different human as to what I also understand about technology and where it can go. Um, where yeah, so I guess there's two sides of that. Is one is scale. Is now we've got this really solid platform that works with OTs and speech therapists and physios and psychologists and sort of any allied health professional. It's got a database of over 1,000 activities that sit in it and are anything from sensory to gross motor, fine motor to speech therapy and mental health activities. And you can even create your own in there as well.
Yeah, that's
And
what I
so
like.
it's kind of like I keep saying to all of our customers and our users, I just say more users mean more fun things I can build. And so the idea at the moment is to really scale the product. And we've got users in Australia, the US, and some random scattered pieces around the world where people have found us via a podcast or a LinkedIn post or something.
Yeah.
Um, and or sometimes there are even referrals. Like my friend who's an OT in this country has told me about your product, and now I'm going to use it over in this, which is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think that's the biggest thing is okay, how can we help as many kids as possible and maybe adults as well, get what they've done in therapy home and then heaven forbid graduate therapy sooner and not be in therapy for as long. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
crazy sentence to say, but that's the whole point of therapy is to get out of it, is to be in it for a chunk of time and then off you go.
And I
And
think if we're doing our best job, then they don't need to see us. We can discharge them because they're doing well. So
and that's
whatever
the
we can
best,
do.
and
Yeah.
that's the best feel. As much as you are
Yeah.
like, I love my little clients, they're so gorgeous, and they're like my little friends, and they're so gorgeous. But I want to see them go spread their wings, and I want to see them go and thrive at school and not need me anymore and have all of their friends and be a part of their family and do all the things that they want to do because that's the biggest win ever.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I think, yeah, for us, the goal is scale, just to get more users onto the platform, to learn as well, because I think that was one of the things that I have learned over the years is, which I love, there is no allied health professional that is the same as the next.
Yeah.
And that is so cool. Like we all do things so different. Like we all have the same premise of helping our clients with therapy and wanting them to succeed and graduate and all those sorts of things. But we all bring our unique twist to it. Your
Yeah.
interests and what your hobbies are. I've met surfing therapists, and I think I was telling you before, I've met therapists that work with pilots, and I've met therapists that work with horses and in fly in, fly out there. Like
Yeah.
it's
So
so
different.
interesting and so diverse that it's like, how do we help all of those people? Because, no kid should be left behind when it comes to um, what they're doing and how they're getting supported and things like that. And so, how do we help all of those? And then the other side of it is now that the technology piece has really, oh gosh, it's just accelerated massively in terms of what's available and what we can do that we couldn't even, well, we could kind of do, but it was really hard to build before. Now it's becoming a lot easier. What else can we build into the platform that makes it more useful to a therapist? So that's kind of our current, I guess, problem solve that we're working through with all of our customers is what is that thing that's going to help you be a better you and make you a better therapist so that you're spending more time with your clients and less time doing documentation. But also we're not just writing your case notes. It's all well and good to write your case notes, but how do you have the impact on the other side of it is kind of the goal for us. So yeah. Oh gosh, I could rattle off all the AI tools that I've learned about, but for a very long time. But yeah, it's kind of where is that next thing? And I'm also really conscious that the AI has really got to help because it's not just AI for AI's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
AI doesn't solve every problem. It surely doesn't. There's human connection is a big part of what we do. And so yeah, it's like, what is that next thing that will really help be the turnkey for therapists to give them the best impact for their clients? And then for us then to help us scale in more international places and support more kids in met some therapists that were working in the Philippines at one point and just like listening to this again, like so cool things I would never have thought 10 years ago that I was going to be talking to therapists in the Philippines and therapists in India and all sorts of interesting places. And now we're here. So
yes, an amazing journey. But I think it's that constantly looking for ideas and how to improve things. And I think if you keep doing that, you keep evolving and keep improving.
yeah.
Yeah. And the AI stuff, I don't know if the last podcast I did with Jess Francis, who does a lot in the AI space, but we talked a lot in our podcast about that. It's like you said, it's not AI for the sake of it. It's like, first of all, it's working out what is the issue or the problem you're trying to address, which is what you've done. And in your case, it was a technology solution, an AI solution that helped with that. But sometimes it's not. But you've got to be clear on what is your issue. What is it you're trying to do? How is this going to help the client at the end of the day? Not just, nice tech for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's amazing now is clinicians are actually having more of a say in developing the tech, because I think previously it was often people who don't really understand the needs, for clients and the clinical needs of clinicians are trying to develop the technology, but don't really understand what we need. So
Yes.
having clinicians now, and I think because of all the involvements in AI, like clinicians now can write their own apps and do stuff and link, and it's kind of opened up a whole world, I think, for therapists that wasn't there before. Scary world for most of us who maybe haven't got a massive tech background, although I'm very interested in tech, but
Yeah.
it's constantly evolving. So it's a little yeah, overwhelming at times trying to keep track of what's happening, all the changes, but very exciting as well. Work
Yeah,
lead.
I think from an accessibility place, like it just makes, some things that weren't accessible before, like the simple thing of telehealth, right? Like that's not complicated technology, but it means that I was listening to something the other day that, they were looking at assisted dying, which is, a tricky topic but someone who lives in far remote Queensland doesn't have to travel 3,000 kilometers to go and see a GP. They can actually just have a telehealth set. Like, the autonomy and the credibility, and then just the human part of that is it just opens it up so that it makes it a bit more fair and equitable to everyone. Just because you don't live in, a city in a metropolitan area, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have good access to healthcare.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's making a big difference in terms of that. I mean, telehealth alone is allowing us to have this conversation in two different states.
Exactly.
And I do, work with other OTs and like mentoring, and they're in other states and sometimes clients in other states. So it's opened up all sorts of, I guess, opportunities for clinicians, but definitely accessibility for clients, particularly those in rural areas,
Yeah.
which is exciting. So yeah. So with the journey, I guess, for you, like what are some of the, I guess, the key like challenges, I guess, that you personally had to overcome with it? Maybe like what surprised you on that journey? Like what was maybe a bit harder or easier than you expected?
Oh, lots of challenges. Learning the lingo, that was a huge one. Learning the whole tech side of the world was definitely one. I think the biggest one though at the start was wearing the two hats and being okay with it. So being an OT and then also being the founder of a tech company. I think originally I had a lot of imposter syndrome that I couldn't say, hey, Laura, I am Laura, I'm the CEO of this technology startup or this technology company. And I don't know why, but like for me, I was like, no, I'm an OT. I'm a pediatric OT. That's my label. That's my job title. That's my thing. Um, and I think it took me a long time to kind of be okay. And someone at one point was like, "Are you just wearing one hat now?" And I'm like, and now I'm really comfortable going, "No, I wear two, and I love it. I love wearing both hats. I think it's really fun, and it makes me an interesting person." Um, so that's probably one of them. I think it's that imposter syndrome that comes in as like, I studied to be an OT. Can I actually do this other thing that I'm really interested in? The short answer of that is yes.
What's helped you, I guess, to try to manage that? Because I think that sort of sense of imposter syndrome is common for most of us, particularly
Yeah,
when OTs are trying to step outside their comfort zone and do something a little bit differently. I think that
yeah.
probably becomes even more prevalent. So what would, what helped you, I guess, to manage that, to
I
overcome it?
think the biggest thing was like surrounding yourself with a support network. So luckily with this, and I've done a bunch since I did that first startup program. I did a bunch of other ones, and I really loved um, the women in tech startup programs. They were just filled with these really interesting female founders, and I know, and not to be biased on that side, but it was just this amazing community of women who so much of the time were building social impact startups, whether they were looking at clean energy, whether they were looking at reducing waste, whether they were looking at all sorts of different things. And I think going into that community and asking people, well, what did you do before? Or what was your job before this? And so many of them, their job compared to what they were building as a startup were polar opposites. And they had to kind of give up those jobs or whatever it is to do their startup. And many of them were like, oh, that's so cool. You can do both at the same time. Like you're not losing one of your passion things to do the next one. It's actually just like the next evolution. So I think, yeah, finding a community of people, being open to going to those things. I think the first few that I went to, I always took a friend and was like, I don't know what I'm doing at this thing and this meetup. And then eventually I just started going to them myself and realizing that so many of the other women that were there were also there by themselves. And sort of stepping out of their comfort zone. So I think I think pretty much every state has a community of sorts of some kind. There's Facebook groups. I definitely know Sydney has a whole bunch of stuff, but I know Brisbane has some, Melbourne definitely, and I'm sure South Australia does, and WA as well. The
No.
universities have great groups. So like Sydney has, there's a Facebook group called Sydney Startups, but there's also a group called Tech Ready Women, which is a really cool group. And so there's a lot of, and again, because they're so worlds apart to the OT world, I think because I went into that startup program, I then got unlocked into them. But there are a lot of clinician entrepreneurial groups and things like that are out there now that are really interesting as well. So I think finding your people, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
makes you go, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that's jumped out on a limb and isn't just being a clinician anymore and is off doing, fun things.
But I think it's like finding, like you said, finding a tribe, finding the people that energize you and being around that. Because I think for me more recently, because I try and do lots of networking with different clinicians and different areas and yeah, geographically and different clinical areas. And I just, the energy that it gives me, like hearing what people are doing, and it just makes you think differently. Whereas if you're just kind of in the same stuff all the time, that's kind of all you hear, I suppose. Whereas when you are talking to innovators and entrepreneurs and people doing things differently. I don't know, it's quite inspiring and exciting for
Yeah.
me to kind of start to think, well, what could I do to make an impact? And
Yeah.
things like that. And I think it's good for OTs to hear that, because I think at the moment there's so much, I guess, negativity with all, like, there's a lot of stuff happening with different funding, and yeah, often it's, yeah, a lot of burnout in OT world, I think, right now. So yeah,
Yeah.
OTs have so much to offer in so many diverse areas. Like, we don't have to be just focused on some of that. Like, we can be, and I think we need to drive some of that innovation and creativity and go, how do we really help clients?
Yeah.
It's not just about how do we fit with a funding source and things like that.
Yeah.
Like, we're never really going to make a meaningful impact if we just keep getting dictated like that. That's how I feel anyway, which is why I work for myself, because I feel like I can offer what I think they need.
Yeah.
It's not about, like, I haven't got a tick box agenda that I have to tick off for another organization or a funding body per
Yeah.
se. I can, I guess, focus on who are they, what do they want to achieve in their life, how do I help them to get there, and that can be very diverse depending on the individual, obviously. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I think being around, I guess, that innovation and ideas, it just kind of, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And it's motivate. I think, I don't know, I learn from stories, and I love hearing, it's similar conversation what we're having right now, like hearing how people have done things in the past, what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, those challenges that you overcome and how do you overcome them. I think again, those startup communities, a lot of them, when I was going to very early days, once they had lots of panels, and you'd have 3 or 4 founders that would sit up and talk about their experience on a panel, and you could ask them questions and things like that, or listen to different podcasts and things as well. And you go, oh, that's how that person did that. Oh, maybe I could use that and tweak that. And I think, again, if you've got an entrepreneurial kind of problem solving brain, which I'm going to say most OTs, unfortunately, that's what our brains are like. We're problem solvers.
We
Sorry, you're
are.
stuck with it.
Yeah.
You can very easily kind of go, oh, okay, I can link what they've done and I can link what they've done, and I put those 2 ideas together. Oh, I can do it this way because that'll work for me, or that'll work for what I want to solve, or
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
definitely. No, it's interesting. Yeah. But I find, like, yeah, these conversations always just make me think about stuff and, like, oh, okay, how do I, yeah, what can I do? Or how do I help others? Or because I just love connecting people together and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I wanted to do the podcast, because I've been
Yeah.
having lots of conversations like this with people, and then I'm like, oh, I might as well be recording them and share them, because I feel
Yeah.
like there's lots of gold nuggets in some of the conversations I have, and I think others would probably benefit from that. So, yeah, I was kind of keen to chat with you more about what you're doing. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for humoring me and allowing me to do our conversation as part of a podcast.
That's okay. That's okay. Easy.
Um, so I guess for maybe other clinicians who are listening to you and thinking, oh, like, they've got an idea, but they're really feeling a bit stuck, or feeling like, I don't know how to go about that. I don't know, what advice would you give them? Or
Yeah. I think the first thing is, it's not as scary as you think it is. It's um yeah, I think I was terrified at the start of, like, oh my gosh, I can't be responsible for an app that's up on the App Store and do all these things and all that. It's not it like it's not as scary. I actually think, like, a clinical session with a really hard kid is actually way more scary than, you know, having to build a piece of technology. So it'd be that piece. The other side of it is, what can you kind of feasibly build and test without spending money, would be my, or spend as little as you can at the start. It's very
yeah,
easy to spend a lot of money in technology land. So it would be this, I've got probably about 3 or 4. So, and what's really cool about the AI tools now is you can go through, mini AI courses and jump on things like Claude or some of the other ones like Lovable or whatever, and build mini prototypes of what you want to do and just test them locally with your clients and see
yeah,
if it works. I think that's the other side of it. If you're practicing OT, you've already got people to test whatever you're trying to do with, which is phenomenal. And most of your humans are actually willing participants because
yeah,
they, and the other side of it, probably the last one, is always think about the problem. So yeah, like, what is the core problem you're trying to solve? And a lot of startups and products and things, all that, this is the one thing to think about is, like, okay, what is the thing that I need to solve that will make my product kind of work? And that's where I always come back to is for us, it's how do we get the information from what we've done in a therapy session home? Whatever that information is, that is the core problem that we're trying to solve. And so, and that took a long time to whittle down to that, like, and be able to articulate what that thing is. Even though it now sounds like it's like, well, that again, a lot of these things I'm like, oh God, that makes so much sense as to why that's the problem. But it just takes a bit of time and a bit of sort of unpacking and talking to people. But thinking about that problem, because the solution may look different, and our solution looks a lot different to where I started with it, and probably will look a lot different in the future, because the tech capabilities and what features you add and all of those sorts of things. But if you know why you're solving what you're solving and what you're trying to solve, it makes the rest of it a lot easier. And again, like my tech team that sits behind me and writes all the code, I don't write code, but sometimes I'll go to them and I'll ask for something. They're like, no, there's a way better way of doing that. We do it like this, and we put the button over here, and this is how the user experience should be. Oh, does it solve the thing that I need it to solve? Yeah, it does the thing I need it to solve. Oh, that makes way more sense. And so that core problem, big piece to kind of focus on, right?
But it's not always the obvious thing. Like sometimes you kind of it's easy to jump to a conclusion. You think this is the problem or this is the issue, but it's not really.
Yeah.
So I think it is important to spend that time delving. And I think, discussing it with clients and using that, as a clinician, you've got that client group, you can be asking questions. Like you said, I think most are happy. Like I've been sort of developing my pain program, and I'm trying to sort of look at how do I best deliver that in a way that really is what clients want.
Yeah.
I have been sort of asking some of my clients, like, what do you think of these things or not? And it's great getting that feedback, because if you can co-design something with consumers, you're going to get a much better outcome.
Oh, 100. And in saying that, sometimes they send you down rabbit holes. So that's why you've got to have your because you've got to like, that was one thing that we were talking about at the start, was like, you just got, as long as you stick, your problem, then you always solve around that. Because sometimes your feedback sessions will take you down a rabbit hole because someone has one left of center problem.
They have other issues, yeah.
But what I have a board on one of my tools that I use, and I just like put all the feedback I ever get into there. And as I start to hear things that I'm like, oh, that's really consistent, things that people are talking about, then that gets bumped up to the top in terms of what we build. But if you stay true to that core problem, then everything else around it kind of, as long as it makes sense to that, then it's going to kind of, it will help you build it. Otherwise you'll end up.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
There was a great book. I was just thinking as you were talking, a great group, Strategizer with a Z. And they have a whole bunch of like startup programs for really early stuff and workshops and things like that, where you you can like look at things like, they call it pains and gains and something. Oh, it's the third one. Now I can't think of what the third one is, but it's like these three kind of, and it works you through like going out to your clients, asking them all these questions, and then you can kind of pull it all back together and then find the core problem. Which is really cool. I can send you the link and we can put it in the show notes for people.
No, that'd be good, I think. So I think it's just for people getting started, and I think having the confidence in themselves that they can do it. And confidence, it's not, that comes with it, the journey. Like you're not going to have that up front. And there's going to be, like you said, there's parts that are going to scare the crap out of you. But I guess if you're clear about what it is you want to do, because I think that's the driving force probably, and particularly for OTs and clinicians, because often what we're trying to do is about how do we help people. And as long as you kind of stay true to that as well, it's like, how are you trying to help them? And
I think as well, like not all technical solutions have to be billion-dollar ideas. Is the other thing, or solutions that you're trying to build. It may be just a solution that works for you and your business, and it's really efficient, and it helps you do your job better and helps you do the service that you're trying to do better. And that's also totally fine. Like I know a bunch of people that have built apps just for them. And they don't sell them to anyone else. They just have their own confidence for them, and they manage it for themselves. And, like, awesome. If it works for you, then and it solves your problem, then it's great.
Yeah, that's right. Not everyone wants to scale everything up and create a massive business around it either. It doesn't fit with their lifestyle and what they want. And, everyone's different. So I guess, the more you can tap into what works for you in your own unique situation.
Yes. So building an app doesn't mean you have to be, a Facebook. Like you don't have to, it's okay. You can just have the app for yourself. It's totally fine.
It's okay, I think to like I guess sometimes you need to ask for help because we can't have all the skills for these. Like you need tech people to do that side of it for you. But I think,
Yes.
we often try to do too much of it ourselves, and sometimes it's fine just to outsource parts or get help with the bit because you can't be skilled at everything. You kind of got to look at what your strengths are,
No, exactly.
and how to draw on those to get the best outcomes for you and your clients and what you're trying to
Yeah.
do. But no, that's awesome. I love hearing your journey and where you're going. And it'll be fascinating to see like in another 7 years or whatever where you are at, because I'm sure it's going to be totally different and it'll
Yeah.
have evolved and you'll be doing more things. So I'm keen to have a chat with you about how I can, use Theratrak with my paying clients
Yes.
because I think
Yeah.
there's some opportunities there because I can definitely relate to the pain of how much time I spend like emailing resources and links and tracking sheets and all sorts of things and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And yeah, and paper versions or IT versions don't always work for clients, so it's trying to find different options that do.
Yeah.
They
No
can
doubt.
find it useful and not just trying to give them stuff for the sake of it, but stuff that they will find helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not about me, but what they will find helpful. So
Yeah.
yeah, oh, losing my voice. I'm sorry about that. So I guess just I guess we start to kind of wrap up. But did you want to kind of I guess just a little promotion about Theratrak for those that might be interested that are listening to this and how they
Yeah.
reach and connect with you?
Yeah, of course. So I think I said before, so Theratrack itself, just the kind of 30-second spiel of what it is. It's a mobile app that helps therapists create, send, and track therapy home programs in a real diverse way. So think activities that you want them to practice at home, strategies that you want them to implement, habits that you want them to form, or even data that you want to get back from outside of your therapy session. So, what did you do on the weekend? How did it go? Journaling about different things, all sorts of things. The participant side is also multi-carer, so you can have, if in your pediatrics world, you might have mum, dad, support workers, teachers, everyone else attached to that program. So everyone knows and everyone's on the same page as to what you've sent home for them to practice.
Which
And
is
then,
that in itself is a really big challenge. Like when you've got a whole team involved to actually have a platform where you can actually communicate. I
yeah,
find that is a bit of a missing piece I've found, particularly in like the NDIS space where you've got like lots of different agencies involved. So
yeah, and
that
it's
your
complex.
little promotion
No,
it, I think that's actually a really good feature.
and I think that was one of the ones that I it came across because of user feedback. So when we started it, we just had simple accounts. And again, I was like, oh yeah, this is fine. We just have simple accounts. One thing goes to one. And then I had some users that had, siblings in therapy. I went, oh, well, of course we need to be able to like manage two siblings on one account. That makes sense. And then we had some clients that were like, oh, I want to send this to the teacher. And I was like, well, of course we want to send it to, like, why wouldn't you want to send this to the teacher and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
um, a lot of the things that we build are because, I have conversations or our team has conversations with people and they're like, I want to do this and I want to do this. And how do I make it do this? And again, as long as it comes back to that core problem, I'm like, okay, let's figure out how this works. And so, yeah, so that's how the platform works in a nutshell. Mainly we have pediatric like therapists on our platform, but we also have adult therapists and all sorts of different people that have used it. And most of the time people go, oh, what's it for? And I tell people, tell me how your business runs and what sort of clients you see, and then I will help you with a case example of how I've seen someone else use it, because there are such a diverse group of people and everyone uses it just, again, like allied health therapists, just that little bit differently so that it fits into their business. So it's quite a flexible platform where it's not like everyone has to do things exactly the same way, but as long as you're trying to send something home, then Theratrak will probably work for you. So you can always find us at our website, which is theratrak.co, or via Instagram, or find me via LinkedIn is another place that I'm always hanging out. Or if you're at a conference, I'm usually there somewhere in some booth of some capacity.
Well, that's where we caught up last time.
Exactly. And I think the next conference that we're at is the Paediatric OT conference, which is in Brisbane, I think in November. So that's the next place I'll be in person. But email and our contact us page on our website is the easiest way. And we always do a 30, yeah, obviously. We always do a 30-day free trial. So you can jump on the website. If you don't want to talk to me, that's totally fine as well. I won't be offended. You can jump on our website and do a 30-day free trial and test out the product and see how it works for you. There's lots of training and everything inbuilt into the system. So yeah.
That's the best way, doing a bit of a trial as well to see how it works.
Yeah. And tested it. I think the biggest thing I would always say with a trial is if you can, test it with a real client, because that will give you the best feedback. I see a lot of the time some people test it just with themselves, or they don't kind of test it out in the real world. And I think that then it limits the ability to see what the platform can actually do. It's hence why our trial period is so long, because I want you to be able to do a full therapy cycle with someone within that 30 days and go, okay, this worked with this person and this is how it worked. And I get the feedback and have the time rather than, I hate 7-day trials.
They're so short, and it's like you don't really get a chance to really do anything with that, do you? I just feel like you need at least a month. So
it's in my opinion. I know other platforms are different, but that's for us.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's good. So yes, it's good that you've got that. So yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our chat. And I think I've learned a few things out of it. So I'm going to look up your strategizer suggestion that you mentioned and maybe see what also startup groups are in Adelaide.
Yes.
That might be something. So that's a couple of takeaways from me. But other than that, I just feel really, feel energized from our conversation, which is really nice.
Oh, awesome.
So thank you so much
for having me. I really appreciate it.
So thank you everyone for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and found it interesting and inspiring. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love if you wanted to subscribe to the podcast and share with any other colleagues you think might find it beneficial. And if you'd like to connect, continue the conversation, or learn more about the OT work that I do in persistent pain and mental health and some of the other projects I'm involved in, you'll find some links in the show notes. But you can also connect with me on LinkedIn and at my website, www.beinspiregroup.com.au. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to sharing the next conversation with you.